After my father's funeral, my mother wasted no time before launching into her plans. "I'm going to take all of Dad's $184,000 inheritance now that caregiving is over. You're useless to me, haha. Please leave right now," she said, her words cutting sharply. I couldn't believe she'd say something so callous right after the funeral. She seemed utterly hopeless. But I had already prepared for this moment long before my father's passing. With a confident smile, I replied, "Thank you. I've been waiting for this. My name is Susan, and I'm 28 years old, still living in my parents' house. My father was the light in my life, always there for me despite his busy schedule. He ran a company but always made time for family dinners and my school events. His kindness meant the world to me. My mother, on the other hand, was a different story. She never showed much affection, especially when I was young. Living with my paternal grandparents under the same roof didn't make things easier. My mother often vented her frustrations when my father or grandparents weren't around, directing her anger towards me. My grandmother, though kind on the surface, had her moments of cruelty, especially towards my mother. She would often make hurtful remarks reflecting disappointment in not having a boy to carry on the family legacy. Despite my efforts to win my mother's approval through academic success and even winning swimming competitions, her criticism only grew worse. She'd remark about my looks, comparing me unfavorably to my father, whom she adored. My mother's beauty and past as a model seemed incongruous with her behavior. Marrying my father for his wealth didn't bring her the life of luxury she expected, especially with my grandparents in the picture. Things worsened after my grandparents passed away, leaving my mother unchecked. She squandered my father's money on parties, neglecting both me and the household chores. Meanwhile, my father was focused on rebuilding his company's stock value, leaving me feeling isolated and lonely. But despite it all, I have learned to navigate the deceitful world of adults, like my mother, from a young age. Now, with my father gone, I was prepared to stand up for myself and claim what was rightfully mine. But despite my resolve, I couldn't bring myself to confront my father about my mother's behavior. I understood how hard he was working and felt that saying more would only burden him further. My aspirations remained clear. I aimed to attend a prestigious university and eventually join and support my father's company. In my dreams, I even envisioned taking over the business someday. I had no desire to live off someone else's efforts like my mother, content with a life of ease without any personal contribution. So I dedicated myself to hard work, steadily advancing towards my goals. As my father's business stabilized, he was thrilled to hear about my ambitions to join him. He allowed me to intern at his company during my 3rd year of university. The employees were patient and kind, teaching me the intricacies of the business. After graduation, I officially joined the company as a full-time employee. Meanwhile, my relationship with my mother remained distant. I found solace in my work, immersing myself in the challenges of the corporate world. Despite being more strict and commanding in the office, my father always showed me kindness and concern, switching effortlessly between the roles of boss and father. As the years passed, I continued to thrive in my role within the company. However, life took a sudden turn when my father suffered a severe leg injury in an accident. He required extensive caregiving, and I couldn't trust anyone but myself to provide it. Reluctantly, I returned home to care for him, setting aside my feelings towards my mother for the sake of my father's well-being. Despite my mother's hurtful words, I chose to brush them off. My focus remained on caring for my father while juggling responsibilities at the company. Even confined to a wheelchair, my father's mind remained sharp, and he continued to lead the company, giving instructions remotely and attending meetings only when absolutely necessary. During this time, my father expressed his gratitude and apologized for the trouble I was going through. "It's fine, Dad. I reassured him. I still have so much to learn from you. As I cared for him, my father imparted invaluable lessons in management, seemingly aware of his declining health. When we eventually learned he had cancer with only a year left to live, I was devastated. Spending even more time with him became my priority, visiting him daily when he was hospitalized. As his condition worsened, my father made a heartfelt request to entrust the company to me. "I've taught you a lot, Susan," he said. "I trust you with the company. I'm counting on you for everything after I'm gone." I promised to fulfill his wish to protect both him and the legacy of the company. A week later, he passed away, surrounded by loved ones and company employees who had become like family. Notably absent was my mother, who had visited him only once during his illness. Her indifference appalled me, but I chose not to confront her at the funeral, knowing it would be futile in the midst of my grief. One thought lingered. I would uphold my promise to my father to safeguard the company he had worked so hard to build. And if my mother dared to shed crocodile tears, I wouldn't hesitate to put her in her place. Despite my mother's unchanged demeanor, she boldly pretended to mourn in front of my father's friends. It was evident, however, that her true feelings were far from sorrow. She was likely pleased by his demise. The allure of my father's substantial inheritance seemed to be her sole source of satisfaction. In the wake of his passing, immediately after the funeral, she wasted no time in approaching me with her demands. "I'm going to take all of Dad's $1,984,000 inheritance now that caregiving is over. You're useless to me. Haha. Please leave right now," she declared. I couldn't believe she would be so brazen as to demand this immediately after the funeral. But I was already prepared for her audaciousness. With a smile plastered on my face, I calmly responded, "Thank you. I've been waiting for this." Her surprise was evident, but I remained unfazed as I packed only the essentials, ready to move out. "I'm going to sell all my stuff," I informed her. "You can do whatever you want with this house and the $1,984,000 inheritance. I don't need anything else. I'll live and enjoy life to the fullest." Her mocking laughter only fueled my determination as I ignored her and left soon after. A month later, she bombarded me with calls, questioning why I had left the house. Reluctantly, I answered, "What do you mean by this? Why do I have to leave the house?" she demanded. I couldn't resist teasing her a little. "Oh, that's because I inherited the house," I replied casually. "Dad left the house to me, not you. I sold it for about $1 billion. Her disbelief was palpable. $1 billion? It's sold for that much?" she exclaimed. But her shock didn't sway me. "Well, it doesn't matter," I assured her. "I have $1,984,000 inheritance." With that, I ended the call, content in my newfound independence and freedom from her manipulative grasp. My mother's confusion about the inheritance was swiftly met with a reality check. "Of course you haven't received $1,984,000 yet. You're a stranger now," I explained bluntly. "Remember when you fought with Dad and thrust the divorce papers at him? Well, Dad kept those papers for any future eventuality. Before he passed, he used them to officially divorce you, ensuring you won't get a single dollar of the inheritance." Her shock was evident as she realized her extravagant spending and reliance on the inheritance had come to naught. "Oh dear, still so extravagant with money, huh? But that's over now. You'll have to work for the rest of your life," I informed her matter-of-factly. Her response was predictable, demanding that I provide for her and secure her a new house and executive position in the company. I scoffed at her audacity. "Did you ever do anything for me? Don't conveniently bring up our parent-child relationship now. I don't think of you as my mother anymore. Our bond is separate, so please live your life however you like." With that, I cut off contact, setting her number to reject calls and informing the company reception to report her as she showed up. Meanwhile, my dedication to my work at my father's company remained unwavering. I focused on protecting his legacy and fostering innovation, determined to lead the company to new heights. While my mother spiraled into debt, forced to work part-time jobs to pay off bills, I found fulfillment in my work. Challenging as it was, I thrived on the opportunity to implement new ideas and strategies different from my father's, while keeping my curiosity alive. Moving forward, I aim to dedicate myself even further to my work, striving to become a respected business leader and continue the legacy my father had entrusted to me.
They deserve to know the truth. Jessica's voice came from the half-open door of my kids' playroom. Your mom isn't really your mom. She's been lying to you. I froze in the hallway, gripping the laundry basket so hard my knuckles turned white. Through the crack in the door, I saw my sister-in-law sitting with my 2 kids, pretending to care while she tried to turn them against me. My name is Olivia Parker, and I'm 35 years old. I never thought I'd have to defend my relationship with my own children, especially from Jessica. She's been spreading rumors about me ever since I married her brother James 8 years ago. But Mommy takes care of us, my 7-year-old daughter, Emma, said in a small voice. She makes my lunch and reads me stories. Jessica smiled sweetly. Nannies do that too, honey. It doesn't mean she's your real mom. I took a deep breath to steady myself. My 5-year-old son, Lucas, sat quietly, his big blue eyes filled with confusion. The same blue eyes that looked just like mine. Interesting take, Jessica, I said, pushing the door open. My voice was calm, even though I was furious inside. Jessica jumped and turned to face me, clearly surprised. Olivia, I didn't hear you come in. Obviously, I replied, setting down the laundry basket. Kids, why don't you go help Daddy set up for dinner? He needs help with those new placemats you picked out. Emma and Lucas hesitated, then ran off, giving me worried glances as they went downstairs. I waited until they were out of earshot before turning back to Jessica. How dare you, I said quietly. How dare you try to turn my children against me? Jessica stood up and smoothed her jeans. I'm just telling them the truth. Everyone knows James married you when Emma was just a baby, and then suddenly you had Lucas. It looks suspicious. I almost laughed at how ridiculous she sounded. Suspicious? I have hospital records and plenty of witnesses who would disagree. Jessica crossed her arms. DNA doesn't lie, and your blue eyes don't match anyone in our family. Get out of my house, I said, my voice cold and steady, and don't come back until you're ready to apologize for your lies. You can't keep me from seeing my niece and nephew, Jessica argued. James won't let you. We'll see about that. After she left, I sat in a playroom surrounded by my kids' toys and drawings. Every one of them was signed from Mommy in their wobbly handwriting. 8 years of bedtime stories, scraped knees, and hugs. Jessica thought she could erase all of that with her lies. I picked up my phone and called a number I had saved months ago, back when Jessica first started gossiping about my children's parentage. Dr. Morrison's office, a friendly voice answered. Hi, this is Olivia Parker. I'd like to schedule that DNA test we talked about. Of course, Mrs. Parker. We can see you tomorrow morning. Perfect, I said, looking at a family photo on the wall. And could you rush the results? I don't care about the cost. That night, after giving my kids extra hugs and stories, I found James in his study. He looked up from his laptop, concerned. The kids were quiet at dinner. Is something wrong? I closed the door behind me. Your sister stopped by today. James sighed, rubbing his forehead. What did she do this time? She told our children that I'm not their real mother. His face darkened. She did what? I explained what I heard, watching his jaw tighten. James and I met when Emma was 6 months old, after her biological mother abandoned her. We fell in love, got married, and I adopted Emma before giving birth to Lucas 2 years later. I'll talk to her, James said, reaching for his phone. This needs to stop. Wait, I said, putting my hand on his. I have a better plan. But I need you to trust me. He looked at me for a moment, then nodded. Always. The next morning, I went to Dr. Morrison's office for the DNA test. It was quick, just a cheek swab. As I left, I made one more call. Hi, Jessica. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, I said, keeping my voice light. You're right, DNA doesn't lie. Why don't you come over next Friday? We can look at the results together. She paused. Fine, but don't expect me to apologize when I'm proven right. I smiled. Oh, I'm not expecting that. Not yet. As I drove home, I thought about the other set of results that would be arriving with mine. Jessica had recently taken a DNA test too, and working as a nurse at the hospital had its perks, like knowing which tests were being done and on whom. Jessica had her own secrets, ones she was trying to hide by spreading lies about me. But in 1 week, the truth would come out. Some lies come back to haunt the ones who tell them. I pulled into the driveway, watching Emma and Lucas play outside with James. My children in every way that mattered. And soon, everyone would know that too. The week felt like it would never end. Every night, I hugged my kids a little tighter during bedtime stories, trying to see if Jessica's words had affected them. Emma was more clingy than usual, and Lucas watched me with curious eyes when he thought I wasn't looking. Mommy, Emma asked one night as I tucked her in, why did Aunt Jessica say those mean things? I sat on the edge of her bed, smoothing her dark hair that looked just like her father's. Sometimes people say hurtful things because they're unhappy inside, but that doesn't mean those things are true. Daddy said you picked me, she whispered, hugging her stuffed rabbit close. I smiled and kissed her forehead. I did. I chose you when I adopted you, and then we were blessed with Lucas. Being a mom isn't just about DNA, it's about love. On Thursday afternoon, 2 envelopes arrived. My hands trembled as I held them. One was my DNA test, which confirmed what I already knew. The other was Jessica's genetic screening, the secret she was trying to hide. I put both envelopes in my desk drawer, ready for tomorrow's showdown. That night, James found me looking at old photos in our bedroom. He sat beside me, concern in his eyes. You okay? I showed him a picture from the hospital when Lucas was born. Jessica was there that day. She saw me give birth. How can she say he isn't mine? James put his arm around me. She's been jealous of you from the start. I think she's scared of losing her place in Emma's life. But I never tried to replace anyone. I said, I just love them both. I know, he whispered. That's what scares her. Friday morning was bright and clear. I set up coffee and pastries in the living room, arranging everything carefully. James took the kids to school, giving me time to prepare. At exactly 10 o'clock, Jessica showed up, perfectly dressed and ready for the fight. Come in, I said calmly. Coffee? She looked at me suspiciously but followed me inside. Let's get this over with. Where are the results? I poured her a cup of coffee. First, let's talk about why you're doing this. Doing what? She snapped. Telling the truth. I sat across from her, studying her face. No, trying to break my bond with my children. Is it because you're afraid of your own secret getting out? Her cup rattled against the saucer. I don't know what you mean. Don't you? I took out both envelopes. One is my DNA test, proving that Lucas is biologically mine and that I adopted Emma. The other, I paused, watching her face go pale, is your genetic screening. Her eyes widened. You had no right. And you had no right to lie to my kids, I shot back. Here's the deal. You're going to open my DNA results first and then apologize to my children for lying to them. And if I refuse, I tapped the second envelope. Then everyone will find out about your own genetic condition, the one you're so desperate to hide. Jessica looked at the envelopes, her hands trembling. Realizing she was trapped, she reached for the first one. The DNA results were clear. She read them twice, her face getting paler each time. This doesn't change anything, she whispered, but even she didn't believe it. It changes everything, I said firmly. You have a choice. Make this right, or I'll open the other envelope. Tears filled her eyes. I was trying to protect our family. No, you were trying to protect yourself. But hurting my children wasn't the answer. A tear ran down her cheek. How am I supposed to face everyone if they find out? I softened my voice. The same way I face challenges, with truth and love. Your genetic condition doesn't define you, but your actions do. She looked at the second envelope, fear in her eyes. If I apologize and make things right, will you keep this private? I reached out and took her hand. Yes, because no matter what, you're still family. That afternoon, when Emma and Lucas came home from school, Jessica was waiting with me in the living room. Her makeup was perfect, but she looked different, softer, almost nervous. I took a deep breath. Kids, Aunt Jessica has something to say. Emma held her backpack tight, half hiding behind me, while Lucas stood tall, his little chin up. My brave kids, already so protective of our family. Jessica got down on her knees so she was at their level. I need to say sorry, she said, her voice shaky. What I said about your mommy, it was wrong. You made Emma cry, Lucas said, his hand gripping mine. I know, Jessica whispered, her eyes sad. I was wrong to say those things. Your mommy is your real mommy in every way that matters. She loves you more than anything, and I never should have made you doubt that. Emma peeked out from behind me. Then why did you say those mean things? Jessica looked at me, then back at the kids. Sometimes grown-ups say hurtful things when they're sad or scared. But that doesn't make it right. I love you both, and I'm so sorry for hurting you. The kids looked at her, their faces serious as they thought about her words. Then Emma stepped closer and gently patted Jessica's hand. Mommy says we should forgive people when they say sorry and mean it. Tears filled Jessica's eyes. Your mommy is very wise. That night, after the kids were in bed, Jessica stayed behind. She stood by her car, her shoulders tense. Thank you, she said softly, for keeping my secret and giving me a chance to make this right. I nodded. We all have struggles, but we don't have to face them alone. She hesitated. Would you come with me to my next doctor's appointment? I've been scared to go by myself. I surprised us both by hugging her. Of course. That's what family does. Over the next few months, things changed. Jessica's test results had shown a genetic condition that terrified her. Her actions had come from fear and wanting to control something when everything else felt out of control. I went with her to appointments and helped her research treatments. As she faced her fears, she started to change. She was less sharp, less competitive. She joined us more often for family dinners, and this time she was present in a real way, not trying to come between me and the kids. One Sunday afternoon, I found her helping Emma with an art project. They were surrounded by glitter and paper, laughing together. Look, Mommy, Emma said, showing me a colorful family tree. She had included everyone. Me, James, Lucas, both sets of grandparents, and Jessica. Family wasn't just about blood. It was about love and choice. It's beautiful, sweetheart, I said, meeting Jessica's eyes. She smiled, a genuine, warm smile. Emma wanted to understand what family means, Jessica explained. And I think I needed that lesson too. Later, as we watched the kids play outside, Jessica admitted, I used to be jealous of you. It seemed so easy for you to fit into this family, to be their mom. I thought that if I could prove you didn't belong, it would make me feel more secure. And now? I asked. She watched Lucas showing off his superhero moves, his face glowing with pride. Now I see that love isn't something you have to compete for. There's enough for all of us. That night, as I tucked Emma into bed, she asked, Is Aunt Jessica okay now? She's working on it, I said, stroking her hair. Just like we all try to be better every day. I'm glad she's not sad anymore. Emma mumbled, her eyes closing. And I'm glad you're my mommy. Me too, baby, I whispered. Me too. In the end, it wasn't DNA that made us a family. It was our choice to love, to support, and to forgive each other. Jessica's journey became part of our story, not one of anger and hurt, but one of healing and growth. You're just imagining things, Margaret cooed, patting my hand with mock concern. Her touch was light, but beneath it, I felt the weight of something darker. I sat at her pristine dining table, my head throbbing, my vision blurring. My blood sugar numbers made no sense. Wild swings despite my meticulous management. Something was wrong. Deeply, terrifyingly wrong. My name is Olivia Parker. I'm 34 years old, and I've been managing my type 1 diabetes for over 2 decades. I know my body. I know when something isn't right. And ever since moving closer to my in-laws 6 months ago, my readings have been erratic, dangerous even. Maybe you're just stressed, Margaret suggested smoothly, sliding a cup of tea toward me. All this obsessing over numbers can't be good for you. You know, my friend's daughter cured her diabetes with essential oils. I forced a smile, though my smartwatch buzzed another urgent warning against my wrist. Margaret had never approved of me, The woman who had trapped her precious son with a chronic illness. As if I had chosen this. As if I hadn't told James everything when we started dating 5 years ago. I've been managing my diabetes for 20 years, I said, keeping my voice even. I know when something is wrong. Margaret's lips tightened, her eyes flickering with something unreadable. Well, if you just try some of my natural remedies instead of all those harsh chemicals. I barely heard her. My fingers were already checking my glucose monitor again. The numbers didn't add up, not for the insulin I had taken, not for the food I had eaten. And then, as I glanced up, I caught something. Margaret was watching me. Closely, her gaze sharp, calculating. The first real suspicion had come 2 weeks ago when I'd stayed at her house while James was away. She insisted, claiming she worried about me being alone with my condition. My levels had been a disaster during that visit, but the moment I returned home, they stabilized. Then it happened again, at Sunday dinner, and now, after using the insulin she kept at her house just in case, the insulin she had insisted on keeping, my numbers were spiraling again. More tea? She asked, already reaching for my cup. I hesitated, watched her, noticed the slight tremor in her hand, the way she avoided my eyes. No, I stood abruptly. I should get home. I need to check my backup insulin. Don't be silly, she said quickly, too quickly. You just took your insulin here. And you know what the doctor said about driving when your sugar's unstable. I hadn't told her about my last doctor's visit. My smartwatch buzzed again. Another spike. Another red warning flashing across my screen. And then I saw it, the pattern. Every erratic reading traced back to one thing. Margaret. I've been tracking everything, I said quietly, pulling out my phone. Every dose, every meal, every visit. Would you like to see the pattern? Margaret paled. You and your gadgets. In my day, we didn't need all this technology to stay healthy. In your day, I said, a lot of diabetics didn't survive. I grabbed my purse, heart pounding. I had to get home, had to check my supplies. But as I turned toward the door, something caught my eye. The kitchen trash can. An empty glucose tablet container. The same brand I kept in my emergency kit here. Margaret stepped in front of me, blocking away. I'll walk you out, she said, too eager, too tense. But I was already moving, past her, toward the kitchen drawer where she kept my emergency insulin. The sight that greeted me turned my blood to ice. Empty insulin cartridges, glucose tablet bottles, their seals broken. One still dusted with fine powder, refilled with something else. What are you doing? Margaret's voice shot up an octave, sharp with panic. That's private property. Private? I turned, holding up an empty insulin cartridge. Like my medication is private. What did you do, Margaret? Switch my insulin with saline. Replace my glucose tablets with sugar pills. Her face twisted. I was trying to help, she snapped. If you just get sick enough, maybe you try real cures instead of all these toxic chemicals. Then James wouldn't have to worry about having sick children. The room tilted, not from my blood sugar, from the sheer, cold calculation of it. My phone was already in my hand, the health app open, displaying the undeniable proof. The spikes, the crashes, the deliberate sabotage. I've been documenting everything, I said, my voice eerily steady. And now I have proof. Margaret's expression hardened. No one will believe you. You're just an unstable diabetic who can't manage her own condition. Who do you think James will trust? His loving mother or his pharmaceutical-dependent wife? A strange calm settled over me. I pressed a button on my phone, stopping the recording. Why don't we ask him? I said quietly. And then from the doorway, a sound. The front door closing. James stood there, pale, his phone in his hand, open to the emergency alert I had set up weeks ago. The one that triggered when my levels became dangerous. Margaret's mask shattered. James. Margaret's voice shot up, brittle with panic. I can explain everything. I was just trying to protect you. Protect me? James stepped into the kitchen, his expression a storm of betrayal and disbelief. By tampering with Olivia's medication. By risking her life. I gripped the counter, my phone still recording, my smartwatch vibrating another urgent alert against my wrist. James saw the numbers flash on the screen and immediately moved to my side. We need to get you to the hospital, he said, his arm steady around me. Your levels have been all over the place for the last hour. No, Margaret lunged toward the door, blocking our way. She's manipulating you, James. She's faking these readings, trying to turn you against me. I'm your mother. I forced my shaking hands to steady as I pulled up my health app. Look at the pattern, James, I said, my voice low but firm. Every dangerous spike coincides with visits here. Every irregularity happens after I take insulin from the supply she insisted on keeping. James took my phone, scrolling through the data. His face darkened as he read my careful notes. Dates, times, symptoms, photographic evidence of my medication before and after it was in Margaret's care. The timestamps, he murmured, his jaw tightening. The photos. The pattern. His gaze snapped back to his mother. What did you do? Margaret's composure fractured further. I did what any loving mother would do. That insulin she takes, it's poison. I was trying to show her there are natural alternatives. If she had just gotten sick enough to try them. Sick enough? James's voice sharpened with fury. She could have died. Do you even understand that? Diabetes isn't some minor inconvenience you can cure with essential oils and wishful thinking. It's a medical condition that requires actual treatment. The room tilted, not from my blood sugar, but from the weight of her words, the full, awful realization of what she had been willing to risk. James caught me as my knees wobbled, his grip sure, steady. He checked my glucose monitor, his medical training taking over even as rage burned behind his eyes. We're leaving, he announced, his voice cold, final. And we're taking Olivia's compromised medication as evidence. Margaret went pale. Evidence? Evidence for what? For the police, I said quietly. Tampering with prescription medication is a felony, Margaret. Did you know that? She let out a high, brittle laugh. You wouldn't dare. I'm family. Family doesn't try to kill family. James shot back, already gathering the empty insulin cartridges and altered glucose tablets. Family doesn't swap out life-saving medication with placebos. I kept the originals, I added, watching her reaction closely. Untouched. The lab can compare them. My endocrinologist has already flagged my erratic readings. Margaret's mask cracked completely, raw desperation bleeding through. Everything I did for you, James. She trapped you with this illness. Any children you have could be sick too. I was trying to free you. Free me? His voice was ice. By slowly poisoning my wife. By playing God with her life because you refused to accept reality. Margaret's face twisted with something ugly. She's made you weak, she spat. The James I raised would understand that sometimes difficult choices must be made for the greater good. A sick chill ran through me. The greater good? I echoed, still recording. Like committing a felony? Like risking someone's life because you don't approve of their medical condition. James was already on the phone, explaining everything to my endocrinologist. Through the speaker, I heard the doctor's alarmed response, insisting I come in immediately for evaluation and documentation. Margaret's hands clenched into fists. If you leave with her, she said, her voice shaking with fury, if you do this to your own mother, don't expect to be welcomed back into this house. James hung up and met her gaze. For the first time, he truly saw her, not as the mother who had raised him, but as the woman who had nearly cost his wife her life. If Olivia had died because of you, he said, his voice hollow with restrained rage, welcome would be the least of your concerns. I took a breath, steadying myself. I saved everything, I told her. Every reading. Every text where you insisted on keeping my medication here. Every photo of the tampered supplies. The police will have everything they need. Margaret's expression collapsed into disbelief, then fury. You planned this? You trapped me. No, Margaret, I replied as James guided me toward the door. I protected myself. There's a difference. As we stepped outside, her voice followed us, desperate, shifting between threats and pleas. But James never looked back. His grip on me was firm, unyielding, as he helped me into the car. My smartwatch buzzed one final warning, another dangerous blood sugar alert. But for the first time in months, I knew exactly why my levels had been erratic. And more importantly, I had the proof to end it. The drive to the hospital was quiet, heavy with the weight of everything that had just unfolded. James held my hand the entire way, his fingers curled tightly around mine, as if he could anchor me to something safe. I knew this wasn't over. The fallout would ripple through our lives for years. But as Margaret's house disappeared in the rearview mirror, I felt something else settle deep in my chest. Vindication. The hospital moved fast once we arrived. My endocrinologist, Dr. Santos was already waiting, her expression grim as she scanned my glucose readings from the past 6 months. The lab confirmed what we suspected. Margaret had tampered with my insulin, replacing it with saline. The glucose tablets she provided? Nothing more than sugar pills. You could have died, Dr. Santos said bluntly, looking up from my charts. If you hadn't documented everything, if you hadn't tracked your symptoms so carefully, this could have ended very differently. I swallowed hard, feeling James's hand tighten around mine. That evening we gave our statements to the police. Detective Martinez listened intently, her expression hardening as she played back the recording of Margaret's confession. The evidence was undeniable. My meticulously tracked health data, the altered medication, the text messages, and most damning of all, Margaret's own words. This is clear-cut medical tampering, Martinez said. Your mother-in-law will be facing serious charges. In the weeks that followed, our world shifted. James's family fractured. Some rallied around Margaret, insisting she had simply been a well-meaning mother who had gone too far. Others were horrified, reaching out to offer support, shaken by the realization of what she was capable of. Late one night, James's sister Elena called. Her voice trembled. I should have spoken up sooner, she admitted. Mom did something similar when I was in college. My friend had severe allergies and Mom kept insisting she was just being dramatic. She switched her antihistamines with vitamins. We all thought it was just Mom being Mom. The charges against Margaret were swift and severe. Multiple felony counts of medication tampering and reckless endangerment. But she refused to take accountability, choosing instead to paint herself as the victim. She set me up, Margaret wailed at her first hearing. She recorded me without my knowledge. She trapped me. Her own lawyer let out a weary sigh. No, Mrs. Mitchell, he said flatly. She protected herself, and given your actions, she was absolutely right to do so. Through it all, James never wavered. He cut ties with his mother completely, pouring his energy into my recovery and making sure I was safe, physically, emotionally, medically. We moved farther away, starting fresh in a place where I could manage my health without interference. 6 months later, Margaret accepted a plea deal. 2 years of house arrest, mandatory psychiatric evaluation, no contact with me or any of my medical providers, a legal ban on giving medical advice or handling anyone else's medication. It's not enough, James said when we heard the terms. After what she did to you. But I exhaled, feeling something settle inside me. She's exposed now, I said. Everyone knows what she's capable of. She can't hurt anyone else like this. We moved forward, rebuilding our lives. I became an advocate for medical autonomy, sharing my story with support groups. The more I spoke, the more I realized I wasn't alone. Stories of family members interfering with life-saving treatment, of medical abuse disguised as concern, were more common than I had ever imagined. My health stabilized under my own control. Dr. Santos helped refine my tracking systems, though she often reminded me, your attention to detail saved your life. Never let anyone make you doubt what you know about your own body. A year later, I received a letter from Margaret's psychiatrist. She wanted to arrange a supervised meeting as part of Margaret's therapy. I didn't hesitate. I declined. Some bridges, I told James, once burned, should stay that way. He pulled me into a tight hug, no words needed. We had built something stronger from the wreckage, a life anchored in trust, in respect, in the unwavering knowledge that we would protect each other at all costs. My smartwatch still buzzes with glucose alerts, but now they're predictable, manageable. Each reading isn't just data, it's proof. Proof of my control, my resilience, my survival. Margaret tried to make my illness a weakness, a means to control me. But in the end, it was my knowledge of my own body, my relentless insistence on documenting the truth that exposed her. She wanted my story to end in tragedy. Instead, I turned it into a testament to strength. These aren't real children. They don't belong in our family. Sarah's voice cut through the courthouse hallway like a blade. The doors slammed behind her, the sharp echo lingering in the air. My children flinched at the sound, and I tightened my hold on them, my arms a shield against the cruelty that had just stormed out. I'm Olivia, and at 34, I was finally about to become the legal mother of the 2 most extraordinary children in the world, 10-year-old Maya and 8-year-old Lucas. After 3 years of fostering, today was supposed to be our happiest day. Instead, my sister-in-law had made it her mission to poison it. Mom? Maya's voice was small, uncertain, as she looked up at me, her dark eyes filled with questions no child should have to ask. Does Aunt Sarah hate us? I swallowed the fury rising in my throat. Not today. Don't let her take this day from them. No, sweetheart, I said softly, forcing warmth into my voice. Aunt Sarah just doesn't understand what family really means. Tom's hand found my shoulder, his grip firm with restrained anger. His jaw was tight, his breath measured. I'll talk to her, he muttered, already turning toward the door. I caught his arm. No. Stay. My voice was steady, absolute. Your sister's drama isn't worth missing this moment. Today is about us. Our family. The judge, who had witnessed the entire ordeal, offered a small, sympathetic smile. Shall we continue? We stepped back into the courtroom, but Sarah's words clung to me like a shadow. They weren't new. For years, she'd had questioned our decision to foster. Why can't you just have your own kids? She asked at family gatherings, as if Maya and Lucas weren't right there, hearing every word. They're not blood. They'll never truly be part of us. But Sarah didn't know our story. She didn't see the way Maya clung to me during thunderstorms, whispering about the parents she barely remembered. She didn't hear the pure joy in Lucas's voice when he called Tom Dad for the first time. She didn't witness the quiet moments, the bedtime stories, the scraped knees I kissed better, the whispered I love yous in the dark. She didn't see how we had already become a family. And now the law was about to make it official. When the judge finally declared Maya and Lucas ours, a tear slipped down my cheek. No more waiting. No more temporary. No more fear of losing them. They were my children. Forever. That night, we celebrated with Tom's parents, our true family. But while we laughed over cake and presents, my phone buzzed repeatedly. Sarah, you're making a huge mistake. These kids will never truly be family. What will people think? Mom and Dad deserve real grandchildren. I showed the messages to Tom's parents. Martha read them in silence, her expression hardening. James sighed, rubbing a tired hand over his face. I don't know where we went wrong with Sarah, Martha murmured before pulling Maya and Lucas into a fierce hug. But these are our grandchildren, and we couldn't be prouder. James ruffled Lucas's hair. Blood doesn't make a family, love does. And this room is full of it. The kids beamed, but I saw the weight of Sarah's words still lingering in their eyes. That night, after tucking them in, I sat with Tom, my composure finally breaking. I can take Sarah's hatred toward me, I whispered, but I won't let her hurt our children. Tom's arms wrapped around me, his voice fierce. She won't. If she can't accept Maya and Lucas, that's her loss, not ours. But I had no idea then that Sarah wasn't done. Her outburst at the courthouse was only the beginning. She was about to unleash a storm that would shake our family to its core. But what she didn't realize was that in trying to tear us apart, she was setting the stage for something none of us could have seen coming. And the lesson she was about to learn? It would change everything. 2 weeks after the adoption ceremony, Sarah launched what could only be described as a campaign against our family. It started with cryptic social media posts questioning the authenticity of adoptive families, thinly veiled attacks that left no doubt about whom she was targeting. Then came the family dinner at Tom's parents' house. I'd hesitated to go, my instincts warning me against it, but Martha had insisted. Don't let her drive you away. This is your family, too. I should have trusted my instincts. Sarah arrived with photo albums, spreading them across the dining room table with exaggerated care. Look at all these beautiful family memories, she said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. So many generations of our bloodline. It's important to preserve our real family history. Across the table, Maya and Lucas sat still, their forks idly pushing food around their plates. The glow of excitement they carried since the adoption had dimmed, replaced by quiet uncertainty. I opened my mouth, ready to put an end to Sarah's performance, but Martha beat me to it. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. That's enough, Sarah. Her voice was sharp, final. She began gathering up the albums, snapping them shut with purpose. If you can't see the love in this family, then maybe you need to ask yourself why. Sarah's face flushed. I'm just trying to protect our family legacy, Mom. These children, James cut in, his usually gentle voice edged with steel. Are our grandchildren. And right now, they're showing more maturity than you are. Silence fell over the table. Sarah, stiff with indignation, pushed back her chair and stormed out. Again. But the damage was already done. That night, I found Maya on the floor of her bedroom, her artwork torn to shreds around her. I knelt beside her, my chest tightening. Sweetheart, why are you tearing up your drawings? She wouldn't look at me. They're not beautiful, she whispered. They're not real art. Just like I'm not a real daughter. My heart shattered. I pulled her into my arms, holding her tightly as she trembled. Maya, listen to me. I lifted her chin, making sure she met my eyes. You are real. Your art is real. Your place in this family is real, and no one gets to tell you otherwise. The next morning, I made a decision. I called Dr. Anderson, the children's therapist, and arranged for extra sessions. What I didn't expect was what she would suggest during our parent consultation. Your children are incredibly resilient, Dr. Anderson said, scanning her notes. But they shared something interesting. They want to help other foster children understand that they deserve families too. She explained that Maya and Lucas had expressed a desire to create something to help other kids feel less alone. The idea started small. Maya, always artistic, began illustrating a comic book about her journey from foster care to adoption. Lucas, a natural storyteller, helped write the narrative. They called it Heart's Find Home. Then something unexpected happened. The school counselor asked if they could share their comic with other foster children in the district. Soon, Maya and Lucas were invited to speak at a local community center. I watched awestruck as my children stood in front of a room full of foster kids and shared their story with courage beyond their years. Maya held up her drawings, explaining how art helped her process big emotions. Lucas spoke about how terrifying it had been to trust a new family, but how worth it had been. Family isn't about blood, Maya said, her voice gaining strength. It's about love. It's about choosing each other every day. A little girl in the audience raised her hand. But what if someone says you're not a real family? Lucas didn't hesitate. Then they're wrong. His voice was steady, sure. Love makes a family real. And sometimes the family that chooses you is more real than the one you're born into. I recorded the whole thing, planning to share it with Tom when he got home from a business trip. But before I knew it, the video had made its way to Martha, who shared it with her church group. From there, it spread. Local news picked up the story. Messages poured in from other adoptive families, sharing their own struggles and triumphs. Maya and Lucas's simple comic book had sparked something powerful. And then there was Sarah. For the first time in weeks, her social media fell silent. She missed the next family dinner, sending only a short text. Not feeling well. We later learned from Martha that Sarah had seen the video of Maya and Lucas speaking. What we didn't know then was that Sarah was facing her own hidden battles, ones that would force her to confront her prejudices in a way none of us could have predicted. But for now, watching my children transform pain into purpose, I realized something. The best revenge against cruelty is to create something beautiful from it. Maya and Lucas were no longer victims of Sarah's narrow definition of family. They were advocates. They were turning their story into a light for others. And in doing so, they were healing themselves. That night, as I tucked them into bed, Maya looked up at me. Mom, do you think we helped those kids today? I smoothed her hair, smiling. I know you did, sweetheart. From across the room, Lucas yawned. Maybe even Aunt Sarah will understand someday. Little did we know that understanding would come far sooner than we ever expected, and in a way that would change our family forever. The turning point came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, a month after Maya and Lucas's presentation at the community center. I was at the kitchen table helping Maya with her homework when the doorbell rang. Opening the door, I found Sarah standing there, rain-soaked and trembling, her mascara streaked down her face. I need your help, she whispered. Her usual sharp confidence was gone, replaced by something raw, almost unrecognizable. I don't know who else to turn to. I hesitated, instinctively protective of my family, but there was something in her eyes, something fractured, desperate, that made me step aside and let her in. Maya and Lucas, hearing their aunt's voice, hovered near the doorway, watching cautiously. Sarah took a shaky breath and finally told us why she was here. She had been volunteering at a children's hospital, a personal mission to prove to herself that her views on adoption were justified. But instead of reinforcing her beliefs, the experience had shattered them. That was where she met Sophie, a 6-year-old girl abandoned at the hospital by her birth mother, with no family and nowhere to go. She has no one, Sarah said, her voice breaking. And all I can think about is how I treated Maya and Lucas. How I tried to deny them a family because of my own stupid prejudices. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Maya, always the first to forgive, stepped forward. Is Sophie alone at the hospital now? Sarah nodded, dabbing at her eyes. The nurses take turns staying with her after their shifts. She reminds me so much of you, Maya. She draws all the time. Lucas, quiet until now, finally spoke. Maybe we could visit her. Show her our comic book. I watched as Sarah's face crumpled at my son's kindness. Kindness she had not earned but so clearly needed. I'd like that, she whispered. And so, our family began making regular visits to Sophie's hospital room. Maya brought art supplies, patiently teaching Sophie how to sketch. Lucas read to her from his favorite books, his animated storytelling pulling laughter from a child who had known too much sadness. And Sarah began to change. It happened in small but undeniable ways. The way she gently defended Maya to a nosy nurse who questioned our family ties. How she beamed with pride when Lucas got an A on his school project, calling him her nephew without hesitation. The way she lingered by Sophie's bedside, brushing the little girl's hair back the same way I had done for Maya countless times. One evening, as we were leaving the hospital, Sarah pulled me aside. I was wrong, she said simply, about everything. Watching you with Maya and Lucas, seeing how they've opened their hearts to Sophie despite how I treated them, I've learned what family really means. But the real shock came 2 months later. Sarah had started the process to become Sophie's foster mother, with the intention of adopting her. I don't deserve your help, she admitted one evening over coffee, her hands wrapped around the mug as if for warmth. But Sophie deserves a family, and I want to do this right. Maya and Lucas threw themselves into helping their aunt prepare for Sophie's arrival. They decorated her bedroom, shared their experiences, and even created a special welcome comic book just for their new cousin. And then, finally, the day came. When Sophie walked into Sarah's home for the first time, she found our entire family waiting to welcome her. Martha and James beamed, their pride unmistakable. Tom stood beside me, his arm around my shoulders, watching his sister finally understand what we had known all along. And Maya and Lucas, standing proudly, presented Sophie with their special comic book, one about finding your forever family. See? Maya pointed to a page. Sometimes the best families are the ones that choose each other. Sophie looked up at Sarah, her small hand gripping her new mother's tightly. Like you chose me. Sarah's throat worked as she nodded, her voice thick with emotion. Yes, sweetheart, just like that. Later that night, after the children had settled in, Sarah approached me on the porch, staring out into the yard where Maya, Lucas, and Sophie played under the glow of the porch light. I owe you an apology, she said, but I'm sorry doesn't seem like enough. I met her gaze. You're right, I said. It's not enough. But watching you open your heart to Sophie, watching you become the kind of mother she needs, that means something. Actions speak louder than words, Sarah. She swallowed hard, nodding. Yesterday, Sophie asked if she could call Maya and Lucas her cousins. Real cousins, she said. And I realized they've always been real. I was the one who wasn't seeing clearly. Today, our family gatherings look very different from that tense, painful day at the courthouse. Sophie has blossomed under Sarah's care, her artistic talents thriving with Maya's encouragement. Lucas, ever the protective older cousin, has taken her under his wing, teaching her the important things, how to build the best blanket fort, how to sneak an extra cookie from Grandma Martha's hidden stash. And Sarah? Sarah has become one of the strongest advocates for adoptive families in our community. The photo albums she once used to divide us are now filled with pictures of all our children, celebrating the family we have built, not through blood, but through love. One afternoon, as I sip tea on the porch, Maya calls out to me from the backyard. Mom, come look at what we made. I step outside to find all 3 children proudly displaying a new family portrait they'd drawn together. In it, we stand united, no divisions, no doubts. Just love. And that really is the most beautiful ending we could have hoped for.